Dylan.
Hey, good morning.
I'm Steve.
Nice to meet you.
Morning, Amerigo. Justin.
Hi, Steve. Good morning. Happy March. Steve, how many t-shirts do you have left?
This is the last one.
Oh no, well, okay, I think we need to start like a monthly theme then, so we can help support you in your modeling career.
Well, I may have something else after the t-shirts.
Okay, good. Because I mean, we can always pull out the crazy hats or something if you want.
Right.
Hawaiian shirts, well, we got your back. So Steve, you might get the record so far this year. So we have 59 registered today.
All right. It's got to be the speaker. Must.
Well, as much as I'd like to say, it's our company. Something we just need to translate.
Our guest presenter.
Appreciate it.
Hi, Dylan. Good morning.
Hey, Dorina, I don't think we've met.
Hi there, Dorina Bustamante with Rittalk Powell. How are you guys?
Oh, good. Rittalk Powell.
Rittalk Powell Civil Engineering. We have offices in downtown Phoenix and Mesa.
Right. And you recently moved from your 7th Street office.
Yes, to the 9th floor of the 1001 building at Central and Roosevelt. Love to invite you by to come check it out.
You'll have to have a grand opening ceremony.
Virtual or in person, we'll take it like we can get it, however we can.
Right. We've worked with Rittalk Powell on a couple projects.
Yes, we love the team with Stanley.
As does everybody. Al. Dallas.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Morning, Steve.
Good morning, Dallas. Good morning, Cardi. Dylan.
Morning, Al. Bill.
How are you?
Dallas, Justin says we've got 59 people signed up for this presentation.
Well, Dylan's a pretty big draw.
Yeah, that's what I thought. coming in. Jeff Minch. All right. Hi, Jeff. Scott. Paul, you have to show your face.
Or turn the light switch on, one of the two.
Then I'd have to shave, right?
Well, apparently not.
You follow Scott's lead, but I'm way behind him.
That's true. Give it a year.
Yeah.
I see Al's the invisible man this morning.
Yeah. Well, he was there a little earlier.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
How you doing, Karen?
If I unmute, it would help me if I unmute. I'm good. How about you?
Good, good.
Right. Another Steve.
Yeah. I see Dylan and
No,
Del.
you guys are far and few between.
Right.
I found out you can drag faces in Zoom. So if you don't want Steve and Steve right next to each other, you just grab one of them and move them to somewhere else on the screen.
Ah. Learn something new every day.
Credit for that goes to my kids.
Well, a credit for a lot of the things that happen in Zoom or Google Meets or, that kind of platform go to the kids. They're so used to it. More than we are.
Hey, Laurel. Good morning, Laurel.
Oh, we can't wait to see that t-shirt, Steve.
I
know you got a good one on.
I don't know.
You don't sound confident there, Steve.
Well, it's a shirt.
Good morning, Dylan.
Morning, how are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
Good.
Karen, I did not think that you would be able to stay away from this topic.
Exactly. It was so close to my heart for so long. It's nice seeing it built now.
It is going good. It's going good.
Good.
All right. And they're filing in. Man, haven't seen Andrew Haynes in a long time. How are you?
I'm well, Steve, and you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Also.
A lot of people are still from home.
Yeah, we recently had the okay for anybody who wanted to go back to the office permanently, or at least semi-permanently. We had one person volunteer to do that.
Was it you?
No. But I had been going in once a month, but now it's getting to be a little more often than that.
Yeah, Jacobs is still all remote. We can go into the office, but the office is really not open for business.
Every time we want to go in, we get this thing called check into work, and I've got to answer 4 questions about how well I'm feeling and who I've been around. But,
right.
Adrian.
Briefly showed his face. There he is.
There he is. All right.
morning, everyone. This is Justin. Thank you so much for joining us. It is currently 8:02, and we are rapidly admitting people from the waiting room into the Zoom room. We do have 59 participants registered for today. I just admitted our 40th registrant, so we have just a few that might be running a little bit behind today. Of course, we want to be respectful of your time. So Mr. Liaison Chair, if you were okay with maybe giving it another 2 minutes before we begin, would that be acceptable?
That'll be fine.
Thank you, sir.
We're chit-chatting as we wait. I saw Anthony on from FHWA, wondering if, looking through the list, I'm not sure if I see anybody
I'm
else.
here, Steve.
Yeah,
Yeah, Carla's not going to make it this morning, but I'm here. So.
okay. You'll be giving the FHWA.
Yes, I've got a few things to share with you guys this morning.
Good, good. All right. Yeah, a lot of people popping in now. Michael Carter, is that the ADOT Michael Carter?
That is me.
All right.
How you guys doing?
Doing good.
All right, Mr. Chair, it is currently 8:04. So if you are ready to begin, we will continue to monitor the waiting room and get people admitted as they come.
Sure. Do you have any opening announcements, Justin, or you want to wait till the end?
I will wait till the end.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the March version of the ACEC ADOT liaison meeting. And 2 months have already gone by. It's pretty amazing for that. Let's see. I don't have much to say to begin with, other than, today, or not today, next Tuesday is Amerigo's birthday. So happy birthday to you. Ha. And last month, the FHWA and ADOT did their, through ACTI, the innovation in Arizona construction. And hopefully some of you got to get in on some of those sessions. They were good. Since we've got a lot of people here, we don't really go around and introduce ourselves, but if you'll turn your cameras on just for 30 to 40 seconds, and wave, so everybody can get a chance to see you. And if you want to say hi to anybody in particular, you can do that.
Hey, Al-Catan, welcome back. Haven't seen you forever.
Thank you. Glad to be back. Yeah, with this Corona, I have not been doing the rounds. I have been back for about 6 months now, a little bit more than 6 months, but I miss all of you. Glad to see you all.
Yeah, good to have you back.
Thank you.
Dan Marm, you don't have to stand up if you don't want to, but we appreciate that.
Wanted to do it with you, Steve. I've always wanted to stand at attention.
Well, feel free to sit. The last few months, I've been displaying some old relics of freeway opening events, and it's basically been through t-shirts, and I'm down to the last of the 4 that I have. So I'll back up some and see if you can see this one. Oh, I have to stand up, Dan. This is from 2002 when that northeast corner and that east leg of the Pima Freeway was open to traffic in Scottsdale. And that was, oops, messing with lights here. That was included that the fancy artwork on the noise and retaining walls in the bridge piers and abutments that Scottsdale had hired an artist to do. And so it was a nice freeway opening. You know, I mentioned I had 4 t-shirts, and it's the first time I've ever worn them or at these meetings in the last 4 or 5 months or so.
You're lucky the missus let you have them. Mine, when I said I don't wear them, she said they're gone, and I've been looking for them.
Well, I pulled this one out, and Julie, my wife, says, "What is that? And how long have you had that thing?" Said, "Well, look at the date on it." So it's I'm gonna have to put it back into hiding, but
yes, that's the thing.
I think she's, you know, the oldest one I have that I had was from 1994, and that was the that mile-long bridge crossing, which was one of our more interesting projects.
Yeah, we had Governor Symington attend that ceremony.
Yeah, yeah. We'll start off with announcements from FHWA, and Anthony is here.
Yeah, sure, Steve. Hey, good morning, everybody. And, you know, Steve, you had mentioned it's hard to believe it's been 2 months, you know, since our last meeting. It's hard to believe we're coming up on a year since, you know, we sort of went into this pandemic operating mode as well. We kind of mark the date here in our office with St. Patrick's Day, which is right around the corner. So, yeah, definitely have learned a lot about operating in this fashion. I've only got a few announcements this morning. They're really just heads up on things that I think most people have either heard of or are aware of, but we want to make sure that everybody's got the latest information on things. So the first thing I wanted to cover was the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. That's CRRSAA. This was a pot of about $10 billion that was appropriated by Congress to the states with one of the latest COVID relief packages that came out. The money was appropriated to the states on January 15th. And Dallas, if you remember what the exact amount Arizona got, I'll let you fill that in. But ADOT jumped on it pretty quick. They've got their projects identified. We're also working with MAG and PAG to make sure we got an understanding of that. And some guidance from FHWA came out to the states on, you know, how to manage the types of things we're looking for, the eligibility on that in February, came out on February 24th. So things are advancing in that round. The next item I wanted to cover was just a reminder about the MUTCD, Notice of Proposed Action, that's in the Federal Register. The comment period from the original announcement was open through March 15th. That has been extended through May 14th. I know, you know, folks that work closely with this, and you know, this is the MUTCD's only updated, you know, every couple of years. So when it comes, it's usually a big lift. That's no different this time. It's a pretty big lift on there. You know, a lot of pages to look through. So remember, comments due May 14th. And then the final reminder is the infra grant application period for this go round is open through March 19th. The infra grants, we're looking at having projects that support 6 key objectives. Those are supporting economic vitality, addressing climate change and environmental justice, advancing racial equity and reducing barriers to opportunity, leveraging federal funding, deploying innovative technology and innovative approaches, and then accountability. So if there's any questions on any of those, our office is open to answer anything. And, we've been working closely with Dallas and his crew on things at the state level. Yeah, if anybody's got any questions, I'm free.
All right. Thanks, Anthony. Any questions for Anthony right now? See if we can stump him. Okay, thank you. Dallas, updates from ADOT?
Well, to follow up on Anthony's, on that CRRSAA, what we had mistakenly called CARES funding, but it was just the response. Arizona got $181.6 million. 31.3 million was suballocated to the MAG and PAG, which left $50.3 million that ADOT will program and has programmed. We put $33 million onto I-10 with the intent to combine that with the funds that we had already programmed in 2023 for the Gila River Bridge. So that would get that project fully funded. The remaining $117 million, we look to put on 19 projects to do pavement rehab. And the idea here is we're going to bring fair pavements into good condition. So it's a little different than what a lot of times we're forced into doing is worst first. We've looked at where can we take some funding, bring, like I said, nearly 650 miles of fair payments, bring it into good condition. We will be putting all of those projects out for consultant design. We're looking at doing one advertisement with multiple selections, and look for that on the ECS website coming out fairly soon. We want that to happen so we can get the next construction season going. They're basically will stay on the pavement, and if we remember what we did with the last stimulus, similar type projects that we did at that time. Steve had mentioned earlier the ACTI event. The group did a great job. Carla, Kristen Dar, and then Lisa Pounds from my office, and a lot of other people worked on it, but those three really shined throughout the whole thing, I think. We do plan, if you missed any of the sessions but would like to see them, by the end of the month, we plan to have those. We did record them, and we plan to have them on the ADOT website. I will get that link out to the group. So if you're interested, you can see it. Other than that, we have not had any major personnel changes. So that's all the updates I had, Steve.
Okay, thanks, Dallas. Any questions for Dallas? All right. I will introduce Dylan Carty, our guest. He's born in Riverside, California. He moved to Phoenix at age 10. That Dylan, you were still in Riverside when the mile-long bridge in Tempe was open to traffic in 1994.
Yep.
He has a civil engineering degree from ASU and is a licensed professional engineer in Arizona. He started with ADOT on the EIT program right out of college. He's been with ADOT for over 10 years and is currently an assistant DE here in the Central District. And he's going to tell us about the big drain pipe that ADOT's putting in along an urban freeway stretch of I-17 in Phoenix area. So Dylan, go ahead.
All right, figure this out, make this work. All right. Everyone see what I'm presenting now?
Yes.
Cool. All right, so well, thank you first and foremost for inviting me today to present on this project. Excited to be here and kind of show you all what we've been doing along I-17. I'm sure a lot of you have driven by the project. It's been going on for a while now. And we're wondering what the heck we're doing out there. But again, my name is Dylan Carty. I've been with ADOT for 10 years, working for Central District right now. I've kind of been in Central District my entire career, and you know, excited to talk about this project and kind of how it came about and what we're doing. So let's get into it. What are we doing out there? Well, we are replacing the existing storm drain system that runs from Peoria Avenue to Greenway. Ultimately, we are going to connect it to the Arizona Canal Diversion Channel, or the ACDC. And as part of this project, we're going to be removing the 4 existing pump stations that are located at Peoria, Cactus, Thunderbird, and Greenway. You know, we're converting the existing system, which uses pump stations to pump water out of the interchanges, to a gravity drain system, which involves installing a very, very large pipe underground. Kind of looking at the project map over here. So again, we're starting sort of at the Arizona Canal Diversion Channel, the ACDC, working our way up north along the southbound frontage road. Majority of the pipe is being installed in the southbound frontage road. And then as we get up towards Thunderbird, we are crossing underneath I-17. And then we're heading north along the northbound frontage road. I'll get into a little bit more details of where we're at with the project right now, and then some aspects that I think are kind of interesting. So why are we doing this project? Well, if you've been in the valley for any time and been here during any major rain events, you probably have seen on the news, or you probably experienced it yourself, or read an article about how these interchanges perform during a major rain event. And in most cases, where the interchanges are completely shut down because the existing system cannot handle the water that's flowing into it. So obviously there's a major need to replace what we have out there, so that way we can keep our interchanges open and provide a safe and efficient commute for the traveling public. And in addition, I mean, the system that we have currently is very, very old. So the original pump stations were built in the early 1960s as part of the I-17 project that came through and built the overpasses. Each pump station is comprised of 2 pumps that are powered by 2 engines. Those pump stations, you know, you're talking 60 years old now. The pumps, the engines, obviously have been replaced and upgraded and retrofitted and modified throughout the years. But the long and short of it is they've outlived their life, and they're absolutely ready to be replaced. For those who don't know, talk a little bit about how a pump station works. I actually have built or done a few pump station projects. I got some really good experience, or have had some really good experience, and learned a lot about how pump stations work, and I think they're extremely interesting. But essentially, it's a very simple idea. Water is collected. Water is collected, at an inlet, either a catch basin or some other drainage inlet, from the roadway, or in our case, at the bottom of these interchanges, flows through a pipe to a well, and then that pump station up top, what you see above, is where the engines and the pumps are housed, and they pump water out to a drainage channel up top, which then flows to its ultimate destination. In our case, I believe the channels that we have flowed through the Phoenix storm drain system, and then eventually out at the ACDC. So the final destination is going to be the same, it's just we're changing the route of it. So it's a very simple idea, but as you can imagine, there's a lot of room for problems, and a lot of areas where one piece of the system fails, we end up with a flooded roadway. And so it's very important that everything is maintained and everything is working in good condition. but I'll get into it in the next slide. We have a lot to maintain in the valley. So, you know, if you have a pump engine that fails, if you have a sensor that fails, if you have a clogged inlet, you're going to end up with a flooded roadway. You know, we try our best to manage it, but at the same time, you can't predict everything. So you can see there's a lot of room for things to happen, and which is why, you know, pump stations are not an ideal situation. I think we'd all prefer to have a, you know, gravity flow system, but it's not always possible. So let's talk about pump stations as a whole in the Phoenix area. So last I checked, we had 71 pump stations in the Phoenix area. After this project's over, we'll have 67 pumps stations. That includes a total of 253 pumps. The average pump can pump 22,500 gallons per minute. So the pumping capacity in the Phoenix Valley, if all the pumps are running at the same time, you know, from what I understand, we'd be able to pump 3.3 million gallons per minute. So to put that in perspective, that's double the flow of the CAP canal. Or if you connect them all to Bartlett Lake, and Bartlett Lake was full capacity, it's about 58 billion gallons. We could pump out Bartlett Lake in about 12 days. So a lot of pumping power in the Phoenix Valley. But also, as you can see on this map, each black dot is a pump station. We have a lot of pump stations to maintain and manage, you know, to the tune of $2 to $3 million per year it takes to operate and maintain. And that doesn't include all the retrofits, all the upgrades, all the projects that come through to actually replace the system, replace the engines, and upgrade the pumps. And of that $2 to $3 million per year, 400,000 of that is in utilities. So, and our pump station system is maintained by a crew of 7. So you can imagine on a very rainy day, like we had back in 2014 during Hurricane Norbert, they're extremely busy trying to keep up with the pump station system. So to talk about that a little bit, you know, what happens when our pump stations don't work? Obviously, you saw at the I-17 interchanges, you get flooding, but here's sort of an extreme instance where, you know, during the 2014 Hurricane Norbert, we had 3.3 inches of rain drop in a 24-hour period. It was the wettest day in Phoenix history, closed several of our freeways. And essentially what you see in the picture is I-10. We had to close down I-10 for an extended period of time. It's a situation where the pump stations just didn't work. They just didn't operate the way they should have. And therefore, you know, we had to close down the freeways. So that's the worst case scenario. That's what we don't want to happen. That's why we spend so much time and effort maintaining our pump systems. And really, ultimately, that's why, you know, the pump stations along I-17 in this corridor are due to replacement. So that way we can kind of mitigate this risk. So what are we installing? Again, gravity drain system, collect the water at the interchanges, bring the water into an underground pipe, and then ultimately flow to an outlet at the AC/DC. So very simple drawing of what we're installing. Talk about the sort of project as a whole. So this project was programmed for $38 million. 1.2 million of that was for design. 37 million was for construction. The project was designed by Gannett Fleming, and construction was awarded to Fisher Sand and Gravel with a bid of $29.6 million. And the contract time is 680 calendar days. So we did start this project back in November 2019, and so we're right in the middle of it right now. Talk about some details about the project, and I did steal some of this information from a presentation that Gannett Fleming did about the project, so thanks for that. But 23,800 feet of pipe is what we're installing. 600 linear feet of that is 30-inch jack and bore, and that's that section just south of Thunderbird Road where we're crossing underneath I-17. So we haven't gotten there yet, but that's you know, going to be a challenge for us. We're installing 54 catch basins, 48 manholes, like I said, removing 4 pump stations, constructing 3 new junction structures, and 2 new detention basins to the tune of 171,000 cubic yards of earthwork. Those detention basins are at Thunderbird Road, the north and south side of Thunderbird Road on the east side of the interchange, which I'm sure you've seen if you've driven by that area. I can't miss them. So let's talk about some project challenges that we identified very, very early in the project. We knew this project was going to be difficult just because of the amount or the size of reinforced concrete pipe that we're installing, the RCP. So we're installing, just perspective, you know, the largest pipe I believe is 90 inches that we're installing underground. And but we do have about a little over a mile of 72-inch pipe. We have 3,500 linear feet of 84-inch pipe, 2,700 feet of 54-inch pipe, and then all the sizes in between. So it's a lot of very large pipe that we're installing. The other challenge we identified was just going to be the junction structure at the ACDC, and where we terminate where the project ends. That's what you see in this picture right here. This is the shoring that was set up. This is probably about a year ago. We're done with this part of the project now, but you know, where this lands, where we finish up the project is right between the existing frontage road, southbound frontage road along I-17, and then right up against Castles and Coasters. And so obviously there's a lot of concern with, you know, the Castles and Coasters and making sure their property is maintained and we're not, you know, their walls are held up, but also, you know, making sure our frontage road is managed as well. So pretty extensive shoring efforts to ensure everything was held up at the ACDC. Another challenge that was identified early on was, you know, the 408 permit and just the coordination with the Army Corps of Engineers and the Flood Control District of Maricopa County and making sure that, you know, we're meeting all the requirements associated with that 408 permit. The slope of the pipe is very, very flat. So we identified early on that it was going to be a challenge to make sure that we get positive drainage throughout the entire project. Which goes back to us and construction and making sure that we're working with the contractor to ensure that they're meeting the project intent and the goals of installing the pipe with positive drainage. And then, you know, another thing that we identified was the existing soil conditions. We knew going into this project that that's always you know, we get a good idea of we're going to encounter, but really we don't know until we get out there and start excavating these trenches. And so that is something that we threw up as a red flag of we'll want to be aware of and consider during construction. Some other project challenges that we knew going in was, you know, tight project limits. There's not a lot of room to build this project. And on top of it, we're installing pipe up to, you know, 30 feet deep. So imagine installing 84-inch pipe 30 feet deep within the footprint of a frontage road, a single lane frontage road between, you know, a noise wall and say, you know, a utility or an APS, you know, transmission line. That's exactly what we're doing on this project. So we knew going in that it was going to be a very, very tight corridor to work in with very deep excavations, not a lot of room to store equipment, not a lot of room for us to walk around and inspect, not a lot of room for anything to happen, just enough to build the project. And so what you see here is kind of a representation of that and some of the challenges that we've had. Another thing, obviously, we're going to go, this project's all underground, so we know utilities is going to be a major concern, whether it's the existing utilities that we know about or the unknown utilities. And so the plan and coordination that went into the utility coordination was extensive, and you know, for the most part, you know, and I'll get to more of it in the next couple slides, but I will say, like, our utility coordination has been excellent on this project. And then obviously I-17 traffic was something that we identified early as going to be a challenge in the MOT for this project. You know, we're closing down the frontage roads, and we're closing down intersections, and we're closing down on and off ramps. But the reality is, you know, we've actually done a very, very good job of managing the traffic, and we haven't had many issues, haven't had many backups associated with the project. And so overall, the MOT has gone extremely well. It was something that we were really concerned about, but you know, coordinating with our partners in the City of Phoenix and others, we haven't had any major issues with traffic. And the last thing that, you know, it's a challenge that no one expected and no one thought we would have to deal with, but COVID, and just and for us in construction and working with our contractors and suppliers and just really our staff of trying to, you know, manage how we do our business. Fortunately, we are outside. Fortunately, we can social distance and really work from our trucks and sort of you know, stay away from others. But you know, we have had some impacts slightly related to procurement of materials. But overall, you know, this project has not been dramatically affected by COVID, but it has been something that it was a major challenge over this last year, as it was for everybody else. Talking about utilities. So the utilities we identified were going to be a major concern early on was a couple of the City of Phoenix utilities. First, the 33-inch sewer line that crosses at Sweetwater. We haven't reached it yet. We're heading towards that direction, but it's a 33-inch sewer line that we are going to be going underneath. And so obviously there's going to be extensive coordination with the City of Phoenix when we get to that point and ensure that, you know, we're not impacting their sewer line at all. Again, I think the amount of effort that's been put into coordinating with the city specifically regarding the sewer line and then their 40-inch water line at Greenway has been excellent. And I think that the project team, both the contractor, you know, the designer, ADOT, city has all done an amazing job to try and stay ahead of these of the construction and really try to plan and predict what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and go into these crossings with the best plan possible. The 48-inch water line at Greenway Road, so that's the very last piece of the project that we're going to be completing, was that water line was a plan to be removed or relocated prior to us getting up to Greenway Road. But as we approached construction and pretty much as we got into construction, you know, the City of Phoenix had the idea of maybe we can avoid relocating that water line, or they can avoid having to relocate that water line, because the pipe that we're installing is very, very close to the top of the water line. And so the City of Phoenix, you know, ADOT, our contractor, all went out there, they potholed, they did some additional investigation of the water line, discovered that, you know, the top of the pipe is low enough where we should be able to miss it as we install our storm drain. Obviously, there's some exceptions. The City of Phoenix is going to have to give in for, you know, clearances between our two lines, but and we're also going to have to modify our construction practices around the water line to make sure that we don't damage it. But we are heading towards, you know, Greenway Road with anticipation of not having the City of Phoenix relocate that water line. So that's a huge win for everybody. It's a huge win for the City of Phoenix. They don't have to go through the process of relocating that water line and incurring that cost. And then we, you know, we don't have to be hopefully impacted by, you know, the construction sequencing associated with relocating that water line. So we're hopeful that we have a good plan, and we'll see what happens when we get up to Greenway. Another major sort of utility coordination effort that's gone into this project is, you know, sort of the planning, preparing for the 230 kV transmission lines, which you see over here on the right. So this is the northbound frontage road between Thunderbird and Greenway. So when we cross I-17 and get into this corridor, it's fairly obvious that, you know, installing our pipe in the frontage road is going to be very, very complicated when we're up against an existing noise wall and these 230 kV power transmission poles. We've already had an instance where we're at right now, coordinating with APS and an existing transmission pole on the southbound frontage road side. Worked with APS. They, you know, when we started excavating near the pole, they were bracing. Ultimately, ran into some unforeseen conditions with the soil and some collapsible soils, and so the APS decided to remove the pole while we were trenching through the area, and are going to reinstall it as we finish up. So, but that was an instance where we worked well with APS, had an action plan in place, got out there, started excavating, and when things weren't going the way we thought it were, we went to plan B, which was, APS remove the pole and put it back once we're done. So, but yeah, when we get to this corridor, we are anticipating it to be very sort of complicated and require extensive coordination with APS. And then obviously unknown utilities. Fortunately on this project, we haven't had many. Knock on wood, everything has been fairly minimal when it comes to unknown utilities. We've had a few sort of miscellaneous abandoned drainage pipes, but overall, on the utility front, I think the project team has done an excellent job of staying ahead of the potential utility conflicts and really planning, doing a good job planning so that when we do encounter them, we have a quick action plan and can change gears efficiently. So where are we at? We are approximately 40% complete with the project. From the map, it's not a very good representation because the Peoria to ACDC is actually like a mile, so it's actually closer to the distance of Cactus to Peoria. So really, we are almost about halfway done with the project, even though the map kind of shows like 30% complete. But yeah, so we're 40% complete with the project. We do anticipate finishing up sometime by the end of 2021. Obviously, we have a long way to go. And, part of the slow, I would say slow start for this project has been just the, figuring out how to efficiently install this drainage pipe with existing soil conditions that we have out there. Again, we've had a lot of sandy soils, a lot of trench collapses, a lot of sort of adjustments needed to our shoring efforts to ensure that we're building, a safe project and we're not impacting any other sort of structures nearby. So that's contributed to some of the sort of slow start, but we're hoping once we get past Cactus Road and kind of get towards the second half of the project that we can, speed things up and try and finish on time. Lessons learned thus far. So again, existing soil conditions. I think what we've encountered was, a lot of sandy soils that have contributed to, some wider excavations for our trenches, some additional shoring efforts, all of which have sort of slowed down production. But, for us, it's, how do we better manage the existing soil conditions and predict what we're going to experience on site? Maybe it's additional investigations, maybe it's, a bit additional planning that we do, but that has been kind of a lesson learned. And I think, again, we've learned a lot just so far about what to predict or what to do and how to do it in such a tight area that I think the second half of the project is going to go much smoother because of what we've experienced so far. Managing the pipe slope, obviously, like I said, it's a very, very flat grade from the start of the project to the ends. And so, working with the contractor to ensure that their means and methods meet up with the intent of our contract, and we're working well with them to ensure that we're getting the flow or the grade of the pipe that we want, so that way we do have positive flow throughout the whole project. So that's something where we have down now. Removal limits. So kind of the other sort of lesson learned that we've had is, going into the project, we knew that we're tearing up most of our frontage road. We didn't have the budget to completely remove and replace all the frontage road. So we had to sort of try and salvage as much of it as possible. The picture you see here is the sort of worst case scenario that we ran into, where up against where kind of the excavator's at, that's the saw cut line that was called out in the plans of the removal limits. That's what we plan to remove, hoping to salvage this other, say, 8 foot of pavement. But the reality is, because of the tight corridor, and you can kind of see in the background, our trench is actually wider than the existing frontage road, just because of the additional excavation we've had to do, the additional benching we've had to do for our trench. And so again, this is the kind of an extreme area. A lot of the other areas that we've encountered so far, we've been able to salvage a significant amount of the frontage road that we won't have to go back and replace it. But it is something where, hey, maybe next time we do look at some of these sort of tighter areas and just assume to remove and replace the entire frontage road because it's not going to be salvageable. And then the lesson learned, and I say it's a good lesson, is the extensive utility coordination I think is working. And I think that we're heading towards a completion of this project with, and some big utility coordination efforts needed through the City of Phoenix and APS. I think it's gone very, very well. And I think it's going to work out really well as we get through these other major utilities on the project. So that's a lesson learned where, I think we've done everything right. We'll see how it turns out, but I think we've done an excellent job of staying ahead of that. We have a really good plan, and I'm hoping we're successful. So, but that's pretty much all I had. I hope to come back again and kind of give you a full lessons learned for the entire project once we're all complete, because I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more that we're gonna learn. But I guess if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Dylan. I do have some really great questions that are coming in through the chat. Would you be okay if I read those to you?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. All right, so first up, question is, are there any issues with installing track out pads and dust mitigation for trucks entering and leaving frontage road?
It's a good question. It's a very, very tight area, right? So we have to be extremely strategic with where we enter the project and leave the project. Fortunately, we've had some pretty simple, as they're working, so we're working from south to north, and as they're working south to north, kind of behind them, they're installing their track out pads, and then kind of like the entrance, we're installing track out pads. So we kind of have a very linear project of in and out, obviously, and it's really, really tight areas where you can't drive through the project in and out. We're having to get kind of creative of where we're staging equipment, and really maybe extending our closure limits a little bit further so we can stage equipment in maybe the completed part of our frontage road, or sort of the leading end of the frontage road, so that way we can have room to get in and out. But it hasn't been a huge issue. I think they've done an excellent job to manage the track out on the project overall.
Thank you so much, Dylan. I have another question here. What is the pipe size for the jack and bore under I-17 south of Thunderbird?
30 inches.
You heard it. Straight from the source. And all right, another question I have here. Any issues with noise and vibrations being monitored along the residential community adjacent to the frontage road?
So we haven't had any, no, I guess the simple answer is no, we haven't had any instances where we've had to go out and monitor that. I think most of our construction is happening during the day. We're almost doing nothing at night. The exception is when we're working in the intersections of, like, say, Peoria or Cactus. Those weekend closures, it's a lot of work to sort of get through the intersection and complete the work by the end of the weekend so we can open everything back up. But besides that, we're working daytime hours, no nighttime work, and so we're not having any complaints. We haven't gotten really, some of the residential areas we've gotten to, we're just kind of getting through that area. Obviously, as we go further north, we're going to get into more residential areas, so it might be something we look into a little bit more, but haven't had any complaints so far.
That's really saying something, Dylan.
I mean, that's our barometer, right? Is once we start getting complaints, we try to stay ahead of it, but really, what's the public telling us? And that's even like with MOT, like, what is the public telling us? Are we getting complaints? Because that's our first indication, like, okay, what we're doing is not working. And so far we haven't had any, so it's working out. In our view, it's working out really well.
I would say that is a major accomplishment. Another question here, and a comment, great update. Were there any COVID standard specifications that were added? Did they work well, and or what would you recommend be done differently?
So we didn't add any specifications related to COVID. I believe, what the conversations we had with the contractor is, and this is with all of our contractors, communicate with us what's going on. We want to know, are your workers safe? Are our workers safe? do you have any ideas of how we can modify how we're doing our business? Because this is new to everybody, right? And but also be upfront about and tell us, hey, if we're experiencing delays associated with COVID. Like again, like I mentioned, we had some delays associated with procurement of the pipe because the pipe manufacturer had some, I believe, COVID outbreaks or whatever that slowed down production for them. And so our contractor gave us a heads up. We had everything documented so we can collect that information and we can plan accordingly. And if we need to provide some time because the critical path of the project was impacted, then we can do that and work with the contractor to accommodate that, because it is really an unforeseen condition that no one can predict. And so that upfront communication with our contractors has really helped sort of mitigate risk and really future issues, and also working as a team to come up with plans of like, okay, we're going to be out there inspecting, we're going to wear masks, we're going to sort of distance as much as possible. We don't need to be standing right next to your crews watching you do the work. We can stand back at a safe distance and really and still do our job and come up with a game plan that's both safe for them and us. And then just again communicate what's going on with our staff. Is everyone healthy? Is no one coming to work when they're feeling sick? And just being sort of responsible members of the team.
Thank you so much for that, Dylan. Inquiring minds would like to know, do you happen to know the spacing of test borings from the geotech investigation?
I don't know the spacings. I want to say, I don't know the specifics. I really don't. I think we did, gosh, I could be completely screwing this up. I thought I heard the number, we did like 6 borings to the project in strategic locations to kind of get an idea of what's going on out there. But it's a question mark of, when I talk about existing soil conditions, like how do we predict what we're going to experience on this project? And I think where we're at is, I don't know, we can do a lot of borings, but you're not going to know what's out there until you get out there, and you might have a perfect section of trenching, and then you just hit a sandy section. And whether or not you have a boring there, I mean, it's kind of hit or miss. And that's what we've experienced, where we have really good digging and then we run into a super sandy section and we're having to put in a ton of effort for shoring to make sure our trenches don't collapse. So
I wonder if Karen might remember where the borings are spaced.
Yeah, we originally, these plans were completed in 2001 and shelved. And so when we picked them up in 2018, the original borings were set 500 to 800 feet apart. And so when we completed the redesign of it, we did the spot locations, like Dylan said, the areas that we felt were too wide of a gap. But I do concur with what Dylan had said, the information in the boring is only as good as that particular location. And now they're running into spots where they have got sandy conditions. But at the beginning of the project, we knew that there would be extensive shoring required, because at the midpoint between the interchanges, the depth of the pipe were upwards of 30 feet deep. So, in a very tight right of way, so they couldn't open up the earth. So he is absolutely right that they're encountering things like that. And we did our best to inform the contractor and the potential bidders that they were going to have these tight conditions.
thanks, Karen. Appreciate the help.
No worries.
That's what Karen is always here for. Dylan, I've got another one for you. How are you dealing with excavation for the pipe installation?
How so? I maybe storing it or essentially hauling it off. It's all waste, because we are slowly backfilling the pipe. So obviously for reasons to expedite the installation. So all the material that we're excavating out is being hauled off immediately.
Thank you, Dylan. I have another question here. how are you inspecting the pipe haunches under the pipes in trench condition to ensure there are no voids at such deep excavations?
Good question. I don't have an answer. I guess my resident engineer, who is not here today, but who's actually out there, the one that's actually administering the project, might have a better answer. But I think that goes back to what we're trying to do with the contractor, and we set up a game plan of what to expect early on in the project before we started. Of, hey, this is the sequence of work. This is how we're going to check it. This is how we're going to ensure that the pipe being installed is close to the planned depth and flow rate as possible. And that's the QC that the contractor is doing, and the QA that we're doing, and surveying the existing pipe, or the pipe as we're installing it, to make sure that it's installed correctly. That's mostly what we're trying to do to mitigate any of those risks, which could potentially cause some future problems. Also, too, a lot of this pipe is, like I said, you're talking about 90-inch pipe, 84-inch pipe. You can walk inside the pipe and see what it looks like before we go and backfill it. And so we have been down there to inspect and monitor and check and make sure that the pipe is being connected correctly. So.
Thanks, Dylan. And I have to say, as a former teacher, you must have been really good at pop quizzes. So kudos to you.
I was not. I was not.
Well, obviously you've turned a corner. All right, guys, at this time, any other questions for Dylan? I am not seeing anything more in the chat with regard to questions, but of course, we're all adults here. So if you would like to ask your own question, we just ask that you turn on your video and unmute yourself so that Dylan can see your smiling face and hear your charming voice.
Hey, Dylan, this is Madhu. Nice presentation, thank you. Just wanted to ask you how the coordination with City of Phoenix is going, and the local access, and also the MOT. In case of freeway closures or even just the frontage road closures.
No, it's been like I said, in regards to the utility relocations and the utility coordination, our coordination with the city of Phoenix has been awesome. And on the MOT side, same thing. We have a plan of what we're going to close. We knew ahead of time, like the standard progression of the project, and when we get to the intersection, when we're going to close it, and identifying weekends. We don't have any adjacent projects, which helps everybody. But overall, it's been going very, very smooth. Again, no complaints. And when there's no complaints, no one's, on top of each other trying to figure out a solution. And overall, we have been very, very happy with the coordination with City of Phoenix and working with their team to make sure that we're also communicating to the public of when these closures are going to happen. Obviously we've gone a little bit slower than we anticipated, so our frontage road closures have been a little bit longer than we'd wanted, but we've been communicating that with the City of Phoenix and the public, and getting it out to their PIOs, and everyone seems to be doing a good job. So
thank you.
Thank you, Madhu. And Dylan, any other questions for Dylan? All right, after providing appropriate wait time, again, teacher, and not hearing any responses, I think we're probably good for now. Dylan, thank you. Like I said, I applaud you for your off the top of your head knowledge. I know I could never do that. Mr. Steve Jimenez, would you like to bring us back?
Yes, one last comment. Don't be fooled. Our next meeting will be April 7th, and we look forward to seeing everybody here. Thank you, Dylan. That was an excellent topic, suggested by one of the brightest people in the group here. We're always taking suggestions on what to have a topic or a presenter, and feel free to contact me or Justin or Dallas if you have some ideas for presentations or presenters. So until next week or next month, we're good. I don't know if you have anything to start with, Justin.
I had to get myself unmuted here. No, I think we are good. And Dylan, thank you again for being here with us today. Very quickly, because it's literally starting here very soon. If any of you are interested in attending a free event, ACEC Arizona is producing and hosting the Tucson Transportation Talks, which is their first ever transportation-based summit. Completely free to attend. We are doing everything through CVent, so we know what we're doing with CVent. So registration is still open. So if you would like to pop in and check it out, we certainly encourage you to do so. And I did put the link in the chat. If you are interested in registering, just click that link. I'll take you right where you need to go. All right, everyone, thank you so much for being here. We always appreciate it. And while we won't be seeing Steve Jimenez next week as our liaison host, we do have next Wednesday our Maricopa County liaison, which is hosted by Mr. Elijah Williams. He is our liaison chair for that. So we do hope to see you next week. Thank you again, Dylan. And I hope everyone has a safe and happy March if we don't get to see you throughout the rest of the month.
Thank you again. Have a good one.